Happy Friday, Brian Manning. Here's a weekly update. Let's get right to it. So, Monday of this week, markets were closed for Martin Luther King Day. So, mortgage rates weren't published for the week. Financial markets were closed. So, not a lot to talk about there. Tuesday this week, though, we got some info from CoreLogic. This is on rents. This is a month over month basis, or excuse me, year over year basis for the month of November. Shows that rents were up 2.7%. Let's take a look at this for a second because this is something that's meaningful and impactful, and we've looked at this in the past. So shelter is a very large component of CPI. CPI is Consumer Price Index. This is a gauge of inflation. There's two gauges of inflation. One is CPI. The other is PCE. That's the personal consumption expenditure. So for CPI, shelter makes up 44% of the report. So we've looked at this in the past. If we look at shelter, right now, the blue line is a current reading for shelter. So shelter's now up 2.7%. The yellow line here, the orange line, is the shelter reading in the CPI report. So what's important to know about this is that this shelter reading lags by anywhere from 12 to 16 months because we're looking at leases that were signed a year to 16 months ago. So there's always a lagging impact. So inflation is always going to be slow to come down because, as you can see, we had the shelter cost crest here, and we've seen shelter and the reports for inflation start to move lower. So we have some time for this to keep moving lower, hopefully, and continue to have a positive impact on inflation. But we're starting to see the shelter costs move up a little bit here. What's important to note is if we look at the CPI report and we look at PCE and we look at the shelter costs going up 2.7%, if we were actually to look at these numbers in a real-time report, so we took year over year CPI reading in the month of December, that was up 3.9%. But if we actually looked at inflation readings and we took in the real-time data of what shelter is doing right now, technically inflation would be going up 2.4%. And the core PCE, which this is actually the Federal Reserve's favorite gauge of inflation, would be going up 2.3%. The Fed's gauge of inflation is 2% right now. So if you looked at real-time readings and you didn't take into account this lag effect, we are definitely way closer to the Fed's gauge of inflation here and what they're trying to accomplish. So we have to keep an eye on this, but it is always a little bit frustrating when the data lags for so far. Then we also got on Wednesday some feedback on the New York Manufacturing Index. This looks at measures manufacturing in the New York region. So this is an index from 1 to 100. So anything above 50 is growth, and anything below 50 is retraction. The expectation was that we'd get a -5, so that'd just be a little bit of retraction in the manufacturing market in the New York region. But we got a -43.7. That's a terrible report. Potentially, it's a warning shot of upcoming recessionary pressures that we're seeing because we're seeing less and less manufacturing there. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but that's definitely a warning shot to pay attention to. Then on Wednesday, we had Fed Governor Chris Waller speaking. He's a voting member. All governors are voting members. He said the Fed is becoming more confident in 2% inflation, but needs to be more confident in seeing what's going to happen. And they see no reason to act as quickly as they have in the past. You know, it's a little bit conflicting because in December you had Jerome Powell giving a more dovish tone. Now you have Fed members talking, giving a more hawkish tone. I personally think that they're just scared to come out of the bag and just say, hey, we're ready to, focus on cutting rates this year, because if they do, markets will rally. If markets will rally, that could be problematic for inflation. So, we have to watch this, but unfortunately, every time you have someone like a voting Fed governor like Waller speaking, it does impact interest rates, and you did see interest rates worsen just a little bit that day. Wednesday this week, we got retail sales. This is for the month of December. It did come back better than expected. Retail sales were expected to be up 0.2%. They were up 0.8%. So again, the Federal Reserve watches this. They want to see what the consumer is doing, how spending is going. And part of what we're also seeing is that consumers right now are kind of excited because inflation is coming down. So costs of goods are less. So you're seeing a little bit of increased spending there. I'm not a little bit surprised to see that, but the markets didn't love seeing the exuberance as far as consumer spending is concerned. Thursday this week, at a quiet news day, not a lot to talk about there. Today we got existing home sales. Let's take a look at this real quick because this is really important as well for us to pay attention to. So existing home sales is for the month of December. One thing to keep in mind is that people closing transactions in the month of December, a good majority of them were probably shopping and looking at interest rates in the months of October and November. Mid to end October was the peak of interest rates. We were locking people close to 8% at that time. So I'm not surprised to see a lighter than expected existing sales here for the month of December. On a month over month basis, it was down 1%. This gave us an annualized sales pace of 3.78 million. But again, this is for the month of December. And on a year-over-year basis, existing home sales were down 6.26%. Lawrence Yun came out. He's the head economist for the National Association of National Association of Realtors. And he said that he feels like the worst is behind us. We've seen rates come down. Consumer confidence is higher. I know from just myself and talking to buyers and realtors that we're working with that they're seeing more consumer confidence as well. So it looks like the worst may be behind us for existing home sales. Something to really pay attention to here, though, is the inventory right now is only at 1 million homes. This is down 11.5% on a month-over-month basis. So you're still seeing inventory low. Not long ago, this was in the 1.35 range. Also, if you have 1 million homes for sale, about 400,000 of them are under contract right now. So that means across the country, only 600,000 homes are for sale. Days on market moved from 25 to 29, a slight increase, but that's nothing crazy, and 50% sold in less than 30 days. So, kind of in a report that we expected for the month of December, again, considering where rates were in October and November, and we started to see rates move down starting in December and really kind of hit some good lows around December 14th, December 15th. I'm around all weekend. A couple items. If you want to learn about HELOCs that we're offering, give me a call. I can give you some feedback on HELOCs. If you want to learn about debt consolidation, reach out to us. We have a lot of clients we're helping right now with consolidating debts. Credit cards right now, average interest rates are 22 to 27%. So reach out to me. If you're a realtor, come on out the pitch starting this Tuesday, upcoming Tuesday, January 23rd, Boulder Social, 4 to 5 p.m. We'll send you some info and the details. We'd love to see you there. I'm around all weekend. Happy Friday. Have a great day.